Are you looking to build a homepage for an event? Then keep watching. Hi, my name is Hanne from Thrive Teams, and in this landing page from scratch video I'm gonna show you how to build a homepage for an event. And this time we're not just building an imaginary homepage, we're actually building the real homepage for an event that's called Digital Marketer Skillshare, and that will be held in Bali the 28th and 29th of October. We decided to help out with this event, and one of the things that we're doing is we're helping them with their website. So let's dive right in and let me show you how you can build the exact same homepage for your event. First of all, let's have a look at the landing page, the homepage we are gonna build in this video. So like I said, it is a homepage for an event, but for the moment the tickets are not for sale yet. So it is set up as a lead generation homepage. So you will see that there are a lot of lead generation elements. So first of all, we have the most important information. So when is the event and where will it happen? And then we immediately have a call to action to join the wait list. Next, we have some more explanation and about what you will learn about the workshops. So this is a very nice looking grid layout. Then we have our vision section, another lead generation element. And then we have a very important section, that is what's in it for me. So we are gonna talk immediately to the people that we want to come to the event. So in this case, we have agency professionals and marketing specialists, we have entrepreneurs and business owners, and we have freelancers and digital nomads. So this part will help them decide if the event is for them. And then we give them some more reasons, another call to action to join the waiting list with a little countdown timer, and the information again about where the event is gonna happen, and one last call to action. So this is the homepage that we are gonna build from scratch right now. To do so, go into your WordPress dashboard and create a new page. Save the page as a draft and edit it with Thrive Content Builder. As you can see, this is just simply a blank page on my website. I'm now going to override the theme with a landing page. So I'm going to choose a landing page. From here, go to the Thrive Templates Cloud and choose the blank full width page. Now, as you can see, we have no header element anymore, no sidebar anymore. So this is our landing page and we're going to start building from here. The very first thing I will do is set up the fonts for this landing page. So go into this menu and pick the landing page settings. From here, go to your landing page fonts. Now the fonts we are using is Montserrat. And if you don't have fonts here yet, you will be prompted to add new custom fonts. And I will link to a tutorial on how to do that. We can set the size, and we will also be able to pick the color from here. Let me do that for the rest of the settings. Now our font settings are set up, we can start building the page. So first of all, I don't need the Thrive Teams logo on this website, so I'm gonna delete the logo. And let's put an image element in there again, because we're gonna put the custom logo. This custom logo should be 60 pixels and we're gonna remove it a little bit from the side. So let's add a margin on the left of 30 pixels. Now on the other hand, we want the button, the join the waiting list button. So let's drag a button in there and put it in the column layout. The type of button I want to use is style 5. And let's adapt the colors to match the color of the homepage. So let's pick this red. And now in the link settings, I can change the text. We want to make this font a bit bigger. Let's pick 18. And we're gonna align this button to the right and also add a little bit of margin to the right side so that it's not all on the side of the website. Let's put 30. Now this heading is a little bit too big, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna remove the margin that is underneath these elements. So let's see here in the image. I can see there's a bottom margin, so I will put this to 0. And the same for our button here. Let's put this to 0 too. And now we can still take out the margin when you select the column layout. So here, margin and paddings. Let's remove the bottom margin and let's put a negative top margin. So to make it even smaller, I'm putting -15 here. So this is about the size that I want for this heading. The next element we want to build is our above the fold section. So let me show you again how this looks like. This is the one with the big title, the image, and this nice looking content box with the information, and then our lead generation element and some subheadings. So let's build that now. The first thing I want you to do with this section is to make sure that you put a dark background on it. So let's go into the section, just select it, and let's pick this blue as a background. As you can see now, our white heading is immediately readable. So this allows you to have your text readable even if your image isn't loading immediately yet. So let's now put our background image on it. And we can make this image a full height image. From here, let's add our title. Center align it and add some margin. The next thing we want in here is the subheading. So let's drag a text element in there, make this a heading 2, put our text in there, and let's make this text white. And we'll make the size a bit smaller so that it fits the image nicely. And let's center align this. And we're gonna change the bottom margin to be only 10 because we want a second line of subheading here. I will copy this element. This will allow me not to redo the settings I just did with the color and the size of the text. So just click on this copy button and put the text in there we want to have and change the top margin to be 10 too. So now, as you can see, we have our big heading 1, we have our subheading, and the next thing we want in there is the content box with the information about the date, the location, and the city where we're gonna hold the event. For this, let's start with a content container. So drag a content container in there. And in the content container, we're gonna put a content box. So in the content box, choose style 6, because that's the most versatile one. And we can delete this text element. And now we'll make this content box white. So let's select white here. And let's make this border white too. We don't need a border. The next thing we want to do is change the size of this content box, and to do so we will change the size of the content container. So click on the container and change this size to 914 pixels. As you can see, the content box spread to the size of the content container, and so this is exactly the effect we are looking for. Now we're gonna put a column layout in there. Let's pick the 3 columns and we can delete this text element, and here we want to have the text date. Let's make this bold and in our red color. And we're gonna take out the margin, the top margin, put this to 0, and the bottom margin we'll put to 0 too. For the other elements, I'm gonna copy this and then change the text. The next thing we want to do in this column layout is have divider lines. So as you can see here, we have these little thin gray lines that are nice looking elements, design elements, to separate visually these three columns. And to do so, we will have to put an image, a divider line in this column layout. So let's take an image, put it above the text, click on Add Media, select our divider line. So as you can see, this is like a super thin line. It's only 1 pixel on 62 pixels. And we're gonna insert it in the post. Now you can see it here, our divider line. It's super thin, so it's a bit hard to catch. And just for the purpose of showing you how this works, I will make it a bit bigger. So this will like make it easier for us to see what's actually happening. So I'll make this 10 pixels. It's become way too big now, but this will allow you to see what happens. So I select this divider line and I will align it to the right. Now, as you can see, the text jumped next to the image and the image is on the right. And while we're at it, we're also going to change the margin on this image. So let's see. We don't need a bottom margin and we want the top margin of 8 pixels. This is it. And I'm going to copy this element because I want the same here next to the location. So copy and put it here next to location. All right, now I can put it back to the normal size and we won't be able to actually see it anymore. So let me click on that and put it back to 1 pixel. And let's do the same with this one, 1 pixel. So now we have like this little thin divider lines that are right here on the border of the column layout. Now the next thing I want to do is add the actual information in there. So to do so, I will drag a text element and we want this information to stand out a bit more. So I'm gonna change the font to Montserrat and we're gonna change the size to be bigger, 28 pixels. And now, as you can see, there's a gap between like the date and this information, and I want it to be smaller. So I go into the margin and paddings, and I will put the top margin at 5 pixels and will not have any bottom margin. Now I can copy this element so that I don't have to do again like the margin and the different text, font and whatever. So I just copy it and I'll change the information inside the text box now. Now, as you can see, we have a little bit more spacing underneath the text than we have above the text. And to make sure this is actually evened out, let's select the column layout. And in the margin and padding, we're gonna delete the bottom margin. So this makes the content box smaller. And now it actually looks good. The next element we want in this above the fold section is a lead generation element. So for this, let's pick the lead generation element, drag it into the content container, and have it set up as a horizontal. Let's make the font size 18. And we're gonna first change the button. So if you go into Edit Components, you can choose the Submit button. And from here, you'll be able to change everything on the Submit button. So let's change, first of all, the text. Let me show you what happens. So here, we're still wanting people to sign up for our waiting list. So join waitlist. We want this font to be bigger for the Submit button. Let's make it 22 pixels. And the color of the button is in here. So for the button background color, we can pick our red color. And then for on hover, we don't want it to change. There should be no border. Or let's make the border red also. And then we have the text. So the button text color, we want it to be white. And for the text shadow, we're gonna put red. So that means there's no shadow on it. Okay. Now the next thing we can do is connect this lead generation element to our email service. So let's click on it again, click on Connect with Service, create a new connection, API. From here, I'll pick ActiveCampaign, but you can pick any email service that you have. So this can be MailChimp or this can be Aweber, or so it's just for demonstration purpose. We pick ActiveCampaign. Let's save this. And now here we can actually change the information. So we want to ask for your first name, make the first name display and make it a required field, and your best email. And after they submit this form, we want it to go to a thank you page, so we can pick the redirect to page, and then from here search for a thank you page on our website and save this form. So now, as you can see, this is set up. You have the information in the opt-in form. The only thing we have to do is add some more spacing here between the box and the opt-in form because it looks a bit cramped. So to do so, let's click again on the lead generation element in the margin and padding. So not the field margin and padding, the normal margin and padding. We want to add a 40 top margin and a 40 bottom margin also. Okay, so now we have like a little bit more spacing in between. The last thing we want to do is take out this little gray border around the input fields. So for that, click again on the element and then go into your colors. And here you can see we have the inputs border color, and I will just make that white so that we get like this flat look. The very last element we want in this above the fold section is another subheading. For this, we're gonna add another text element underneath here. We make it a heading 3. We're gonna make this text smaller. Change the color of the font to be like a light gray color. And let's change the line height here because it's pretty cramped. So we're gonna put this line height to 36 pixels. As you can see, this gave it a little bit more spacing, and we're gonna center align this information. Now, this is almost good. The only thing that I want to do is add a little bit more spacing here in between this text and this content box. So I will select this content container and add a margin, a top margin to the content container. So we can add a top margin, or let's say 30 pixels. Now, this looks more balanced on our image. Let's save these changes and preview what we have so far. So far we have our logo, we have our button that isn't linked to anything yet for the moment, and we have our above the fold section that already allows people to know what this is about, where the event will take place and when, and also they can sign up to our waiting list. Now the next section is this light blue section with some more information. So it's like this paragraph blue section. Let's build that now. To make this, we will have to add a new section first. So let's pick the page section here and drag it in there. Click on it and make it a light blue color. Let's paste our text in there. And we want this to be bigger, and also we want it to be a different font. So let's make this Montserrat and center align it. To avoid having this element so close to the border, we will add a margin, a top margin of 70 in there. And now we want 4 paragraphs with the same font settings. So we're gonna copy this element to have 4 paragraph elements. Let's put our information in there. And now, to make this look good, we will have to play with the margins a little bit. So let's take the second paragraph, go into our margins, and make this a top margin of 20 and a bottom margin of 5. Now, on the third element, we will need a top margin of 5 and a bottom margin of 20. And then we have this last element where we can have a top margin of 30 and a bottom margin of 50. So this is just the way that you can space the elements together or like make them further away from each other, and to make sure that you have enough spacing to make this section stand out on its own. I will even add a little bit more here to make this actually 70. So now we have the same spacing here and underneath this element here. Okay, let's save this. The next section we are gonna build is this what you'll learn section with this grid layout for the featured workshops. Let's do that now. First of all, we have to add a new page section. This one is white, So click on it, background color white. The first element is a heading 2, so let's click on this text element and make it a heading 2. Center align it. And we're gonna add a top margin of 70 and a bottom margin of 40. Now the next element is a subheading. Let's drag a text element in there again. This will be a heading 3. Let's make this a bit smaller, 24 pixels with the line height of 30. And we're gonna change a custom font, which is Laura. And let's center align this. The line height should be 40. Yes, this looks better. Now we want another title in there. So a text element. This again is a heading 2. This would be our featured workshops. Center align it, make it a little bit smaller, so 36 pixels, with a top margin of 70 and a bottom margin of 40. Now that we have our titles, we can put our grid element in there. So this was a 3-column layout. So let's start with that, put a 3-column layout in there. And first of all, we had an image. So let's drag an image in the first column and add this image. We're gonna center align this image. And we want a title underneath there. So this will be a heading 3. Let's center align the text, make this font a bit smaller, so 24 pixels. And on the margin, we want a bottom margin of 5. Now I'm gonna add another text element in there. And this is like the subheading again. So this is also center aligned, a little smaller. And make a top margin of only 5. Alright, so this is how we want our elements to look like. So now, rather than changing the fonts and the margin and everything again, I will just copy the elements into the second and the third column. And now we have the exact same layout. To change the image, click on the image and choose the Change Image button. Now that we have this first line of our grid exactly the way we want it, we can simply copy this whole column layout. So make sure that you're on the outer border of the column and click on this copy button once and twice. So now we have the exact layout you want to have, and you can simply click and edit to make this grid with the information you want to have in there. Now this grid looks exactly the way we want it. We can continue with the next section of the page. And that section is the vision section. So this again, a gray section with only a paragraph and the title in there. Let's pick a new section, drag it under, and make this the gray we want it to be. We can select the text that's in the paragraph and pick for this to be a heading 2. Center align it, and we'll need to add some more margin there, so a 50 top margin and a 40 bottom margin. Now we can add the paragraphs in there, take the text element, drag it on, and we want this to be Montserrat, 22 pixels, with a line height of 40 pixels, and center align this too. Now we're gonna copy this paragraph element 2 times. Change the text and add a bottom margin to the last paragraph. Now this is our vision section. Let's have a look at our page so far. So as you can see, the top section, then we have a first paragraph section, our grid layout, and our vision section. Now the next thing we want to build is again a lead generation element with this nice looking picture background. Let's go back, add a new section element, so a new page section. As I explained you before, let's make this first a dark colored background color so that the white text will stand out. And let's make this already white, because if not, it will disappear on our picture and will become difficult to read. And we will want this to be a heading 2. And let's make this white, so like I said, that we can actually see it once we add the image. And let's center line it while we're at it. So now let's click on the section again, add a background image. Insert it. And let's add our different text and paragraphs on there. We'll make this text a little smaller and add some margin, so a 70 top margin, 40 bottom margin. And now we're gonna add a content container in there. So choose the content container element, drag it in there, click on the text element, because as you can see with an image it can be hard to find your text elements. So let's make them white immediately, because this is the type of element that you can forget about. Now we want this text to be 22 pixels and to be Montserrat light, still center aligned, and a line height of 36 pixels. And now, like I said, we want our lead generation element in there. So first of all, we're gonna click on the content container, make this 914 pixels again, so the same width as the content container we have on the top of the page. And now what we'll do is we'll simply copy the lead generation element that's already on the top of the page. Why? Because we've already set it up with our email provider and we did all the fancy design stuff the way we wanted it. So we can simply copy that element and not do all of that again. So let's go to the top of the page, click on the copy button and take this element with us and drag it down until we're here in the content container. Here we go. Now the only thing we want to do here is add a bottom margin, and we can add this bottom margin to our lead generation element. So in the margin and padding, I want this to be a 70 pixel bottom margin. So now we have this very nice looking lead generation element in the middle of our page. And what we want to do is we want the button here on the top, the join waiting list button, we want it to be linked to this section on the page. So if people click on the join waiting list button on the top of the page, they will be sent to this section. To do so, you click on this section element, and here where you see written custom ID, click in it and write anything you want. So for this, we will write join. Okay, close this again. And now if we go to our top element here, and we click on it, in our link settings, we can write in the URL a hashtag and join. So this means that you will send people to the section of the page that is called join. So that has the custom ID join. Let's close and let's save this. And let me show you how this works now. So let's go back into our page, reload it. And now when we click on this button, we are sent to this element. The next element we want to build is this what's in it for me element. So here we have a title, we have an image, and we have some text paragraph next to it. So it's a 2-column layout and with a lot of spacing, as you can see here, between the image and the column. So that's exactly what we will build right now. As always, let's start by putting a new page section in there. This one is white, so background color, white. And the first element is a heading 2, center line, a top margin of 50, a bottom margin of 40. And we're gonna put our 2-column layout in there. And the actual layout that we have is a 1/3, 2/3 layout. So let's do that now. Let's go into columns and pick this 1/3, 2/3 column. Now in the first column, we want to have a heading 3 and we want to have an image in there. So let's pick an image, drag it into this column and add the media. We want a little bit more spacing between this text and this image. So we can either add a top margin to the image or a bottom margin to the text. So let's do that now. And let's put a bottom margin of 40. Now in the right-hand column, we want to first put a content container. Because remember what I told you, that we wanted to have a lot of spacing between the first column and the second column. And to have this spacing, we need to have a content container. So in the content container, we're gonna put the text first. And now that we have our text in there, we want to add the spacing. So click on the content container and make this 700 pixels. And as you can see, this will distribute the 700 pixels in the middle of the column. But we want all the spacing to be in between this column, so on the left side of this element. So we are gonna align this content container to the right. And one more thing we will have to do is add a little bit more margin on this content container and bold some text in this paragraph. Now that we have this layout set up, we can actually simply copy it 2 more times so that we can have 3 times the exact same layout without having to redo everything we just set up. So let me copy this and 1 more time. And now we can simply change the text and the images to look the way we want it to. Now that we finished this What's in it for me section, it's time to put another lead generation element in there. So let's start by putting a new page section. This one is gonna be a dark color. So let's pick this dark color. Our text element should be white. This is a heading 2. Center align it, make it a top margin of 50, a bottom margin of 40. And change the text. Next we have a subheading. So let's drag a paragraph element in there. Select it, make it also light gray. And let's make this bigger. Center align it and give it a bottom margin of 50 pixels. Now let me quickly show you the next element that we want to create. So here, as you can see, what we want to do is have this blue box with the lead generation element and then with a countdown timer. And you can see that this blue box is the same width of the other elements on the page, but that the lead generation element is not as wide. So I will show you how to create this layout. Let's first pick a content box. Let's pick style 6. Make this a blue box with a blue border. And this element will be a heading 3. Make it white. And let's change the text. Center align this element. And now we can actually go back to a lead generation element we have right here. And we can copy it with this content container. So let's copy not just the lead generation element, but actually the content container. So copy it and drag it down the page. Put it in here. And let's delete this title. The next thing I want to put in here is a new title. So let's copy this one and make sure this is in the content box. And we want to add a countdown timer element in here. So let's pick a countdown timer, the first one, and make it a column layout. So here we're gonna pick style 3 and make this the light gray one. And so the date of this event is in October the 28th, and let's just put it at 9 in the morning. And now, as you can see, we're just gonna change this alignment a little bit. So I want this to be right aligned, and on the column layout, I want this to be in the middle. So that is actually nicely aligned with this element. And this one, we're gonna center align. And let's just put these two elements a little bit closer together. So here on the lead generation, I think we have a bottom margin that's pretty large. So let's put 40 instead of 70, or maybe even a little less. And now we have our content box with the lead generation element, with the countdown timer, and the only thing we want is a little bit more space here underneath the content container or underneath this content box. So let's click on the content box and add a bottom margin of 50 pixels. Here we go. Let's preview this. So we're getting pretty close. We have this above the fold with a nice looking image, a paragraph, our grid layout with the featured workshops, then our vision, a new lead generation element, the what's in it for me section with 3 different people we're talking to. And then we have again this layout with a lead generation element and our countdown timer. And now what we want is another layout, another 2-column layout to show where the event is happening, and one last lead generation element and the bottom section. So 3 more sections to go, and then we're all done. So let's go back into our page, add a new section. So this one is a white section, background color white. And we want to add an image in there. We want to have the text next to the image, so a column layout. So I'll simply drag this text element next to it, make it a heading 2, change the text. We want this a little bit lower, so let's add a top margin of 50 and a bottom margin of 90 pixels. And we also want to have this whole element a little bit further from the top border. So let's click on the column layout and then go into our top margin and add a 20 pixel top margin there. Now we want some more information here in the column with the text. So let's drag another element in there. Let's make this 22 pixels. And with a bottom margin of only 10 pixels. I'm gonna copy this element. Now let's make this one bold. Make this one a little closer together. So let's make this a top margin of 10. And let's do the same here, top margin of 10. Here we go. Now we have one last lead generation element with a picture background, with an image background. So let's drag another section in there, page section. Make this text already a heading 3 and make it white so that we can find it. And now let's make the background color dark again, so that if the image doesn't load immediately, we can still read the text. Put the background image on there. Now we're gonna make this size 36 pixels. And with a top and a bottom margin of 10. This is just so that I can easily copy this section, center align it. And now I want to have multiple elements like this. So let's copy this 4 times. And now we're gonna change the text in these paragraphs. Now I'm gonna add some more top margin here on this first paragraph. And we have to add our lead generation element underneath this. So we can simply again copy this one with the content container. So let's copy the whole thing, drag it, put it underneath here, underneath the text. And we don't want this countdown timer, so we can simply delete this column layout. And now we can play with the margin a little bit more. So add some bottom and top margin to the content container. Here we go. This was our last lead generation element. And the very last section is the footer section. So for this, let's put one last section in there. Make this one a very dark color. And put our disclaimer links in there. That's it, our event homepage is finished. And what will happen with this event homepage is that actually the lead generation elements will be replaced with the buttons to buy a ticket once the tickets are on sales. So then we will have a section probably down here somewhere where we will replace this lead generation elements with the column layout with the different tickets that you will be able to buy, and then this button will go to the tickets, and so will the button here on the top section. So this is a very smart way to actually have a landing page that is already working for you, that is already building up an email list even before the tickets for your event are on sales. I hope you liked this tutorial and that you learned some new tips and tricks that you can use on your own homepage. And of course, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below.